Hello, everybody. Jose Rodriguez here. It is February the 13th. What day is it today? Monday. Yes. So, I want to cover a few subjects. But first of all, for all you movie geeks out there, I just went to see the new Lego Batman movie. Oh my God, that was fabulous. Not only did it make me laugh, and I needed that for the events of the last couple of days with my mom being sick and everything. I really needed something to cheer me up. And that sure did the trick. It is a beautifully produced movie. The animation, computerized animation, it almost looked like it was stop motion. The detailing on those little Lego pieces of those little figures playing the parts of all these superheroes were really just amazing. And the technology that these movies are able to utilize. Really fun. It was fun. Give it a try if you have it playing nearby you. You'll have a lot of fun. It'll bring the kid out of you. Anyway, first of all, as you know, the X-Ray Color Monkey Photo has new software. And that software has been riddled with problems. Basically, it seems to not work with Mac OS. So X-Ray has done a terrible job, I think, producing the software. The Windows one seems to have worked somewhat with some people. I have had zero problems with it. But again, it depends on your particular operating system, the alignment of the planets, and so on. So it's kind of a sad thing. I found that as I was using it to calibrate my monitor, that it utilized a very much more involved calibration process. And it seemed to do a more precise or more thorough job than the previous version of the software ever did or seemed to do. So I welcome that, and I had no trouble with it. And I also had no idea that other people are experiencing such problems with it. So what I would suggest is if you own a Color Monkey Photo and you tried the new one and it, gave you some problems, just go back and reinstall the old one. You'll have to do a complete clean uninstall and start from the beginning, meaning that you will have to actually delete any registry entries that you may have, remove any actions that may still linger in your services, and so on. But anyway, I made some profiles with it, and at first I was totally shocked. I said, what the heck is going on? Because it produced printouts that were completely different. Now, I try to find some of my old ones, and I guess I must have trashed them as I didn't really need them anymore. But these are the printouts that you produce. Basically, what happens is you open up the software, and I have videos demonstrating the process using the older software. If you go to my color management section, there will be a part 1, part 2, part 3 that takes you to the complete process of calibrating your monitor as well as producing a paper profile from scratch, step by step. So good thing to watch, and you'll be able to grasp what the process is all about. But initially what happens is you tell the software you want to create a paper profile, you choose the printer, and then you name it according to whatever the paper is. If you're using a third-party ink, you might want to add that information as well. So you give it a descriptive name that you're going to be able to then go back and recognize when it becomes a profile that you can access. So you're going to pick your printer, give it a name, and so on. Then it's going to ask you to print these charts. There goes my heater. And basically what you want to do is you're going to calibrate your Color Monkey Photo. If it's been idle for a day or so, it's going to require recalibration. All it's doing is calibrating the internal light source that it uses to then illuminate each one of these patches. And as it reflects back, it reads it with the spectrophotometer, built-in spectrophotometer. And so it needs to be recalibrated every time you use it. Anyway, that is a short process, takes about 30 seconds to do. All right, so then you're going to tell your, say, your Epson 2800 or your Epson P800 or your R3000, your P600, whatever Epson printer you have or Canon printer you have that you want to not have color management. Okay, so every Epson printer is a little bit different. It might be called something different, and I have a video that takes you through the steps of recognizing the differences between each Epson driver. On the Canon driver, basically, you're going to deactivate color matching to none, and I have a video there as well that shows you how to do that. All right, so once you have deactivated the color matching or color management in your driver, then you will print one of these. And so you're going to choose your paper type. If it's a matte paper, you're going to choose enhanced matte or any of the matte papers that you have in the driver for that particular printer. And if it's glossy, you're going to pick one of the closest matching glossy papers and so on. So then you're going to go ahead and print it. I usually use high quality, and you will get one of these. Okay. You will then click next on the program, the software. It'll ask you to wait 10 minutes. I usually go upstairs for half an hour and come down so that this is thoroughly dried, specifically with dye inks. Dye inks do change slightly upon drying, and pigment inks are not so susceptible to that change, but they should dry for at least 10 minutes according to the software, but I always give it about a half hour to 1 hour. Then I come back down and I read from right to left, and if it gives me the okay, it will then highlight the next row on the screen as you're watching it, and you will read, you will read, you will read, and you will read. Once you finish all of them, you click next. Now, depending, here's how this works, and I'll give you the explanation so that you understand the process. The program generates an initial set of color patches. It knows the values of those individual color patches, and then you print them, and then when it reads your printed results, it's going to go back and make a comparison of your original values and what your printer actually produced. Okay, they may match, they may be off, and so it's going to generate a secondary set of patches depending on the error plus or minus that the spectrophotometer read. So once it does that, it'll load up a new custom set of patches, and it looks like this. And this looks a hell of a lot different than the previous ones. The previous one with the old software was not as saturated. It looked much duller, and basically it did not look as bright as this. And that threw me for a loop when I first saw it. I thought, oh no, something is wrong. Well, no, nothing is wrong. This is the way the new software works. So again, what it's doing is generating a new set of colors that basically corrects the inaccuracies of whatever it saw on these individual colors. So if this was supposed to be a certain value, yellow, but it printed some other value, one way or another, left or right, let's just say, then it will then create a corrective set of color patches. Don't worry about it. Just produce it, let it dry, scan it from right to left in this order from bottom to top. The numbers are here, so you know exactly what to do. And if you notice, there are little arrows that point in this direction. That's how the patches are designed. All right, so once you are done with that, then it's time to let the software generate the profile, and then you're going to save it. And it's going to save it for you automatically in the correct location, which in Windows is Windows or C drive, Windows, System 32, Spool, Drivers, and Color. And within that folder named Color is where all of the profiles reside. And so you don't have to worry about installing the profile yourself. It'll automatically be stored there. Now, once you have it stored there, then it will become usable or accessible with programs such as Photoshop, Lightroom, QImage, or any other program that allows color managed type workflow for printing photos. All right. So I hope that kind of, if you guys were getting into possibly ordering a Color Monkey photo or already own one and were a bit, obscure as to how the process actually works, I hope that cleared things up a little bit. Okay, now, several more topics that keep coming up on these forums. Precision Colors ink fading. Oh gosh, guys. And the biggest complaint is from people who claim that they have fading within 2 weeks. Boy, you have to live in a horrendous type of environmental condition to have color fading in 2 weeks. As you have seen from my previous window tests, this is being blasted by sunlight for it's almost 6 months now. A few more days, it'll be 6 months. And I'll show you real quick once again, folks. This is my window blasted by sunlight, and this is sitting in my room on the open bench for 6 months. And as you can see, there's hardly any difference except for the black. The black has lost some of its density and has turned slightly brownish, which is what black ink does. And this is dye ink. Dye ink is going to fade, period. So don't be surprised if, 10 years from now, your framed print might actually show a little bit of fading, unless you're using ultraviolet absorbing glass, which is very expensive. You're going to have some fading. So the moral of the story is longevity, print with pigment. If you print with dye inks, especially inks that's going to save you a ton of money, 60 cents per refill instead of $14 per brand new OEM card, then you have to give up something. But if you notice, and I'll show you this once again, the difference in density between the color patches and the original ones that were sitting here in the room. By the way, these do not differ at all from the ones that I stored in the dark. Okay, so this is normal room conditions, sitting in here open, unprotected, with nothing covering it, nothing filtering UV or other environmental reasons. And a lot has to do with oxidation of the inks. If you have oxidants in the air, meaning ozone, if you're next to a furnace like I am right next door to me, I could have ozone higher than normal ozone levels. And so that would cause oxidation of the inks. And so as you can see, if any fading has occurred, it really hasn't shifted in any direction. I don't have a color cast. I don't have a green all of a sudden turning cyan. I don't have an orange all of a sudden turning magenta or something. So it's all about, and this is, before I stop, it's all about the paper. This is actually Pro Luster from Canon, which is one of their lower cost papers. It's an RC or resin coated plastic type paper. It has OVAs, and not the best paper for longevity. Okay, if you really want to use third-party inks such as Precision Colors or octoinkjet.co.uk from England, that's the other source that I know of that's excellent. You're going to have to use a better paper. And all I can say is that I have used so far papers from Hahnemühle, papers from Ink Press, papers from Red River, and especially those that are more of the artsy type papers that have a little bit of gloss on them, the Burita papers and so on. Red River, I love their San Gabriel, I love their Palo Duro, and they work flawlessly on the Pro 100. And like I said, I have not seen a hair of fading on my Palo Duro prints from the Pro 100. So the paper makes a huge difference, and your environmental conditions make a huge difference. Okay, so most people, and this is not a prop for Precision Colors, most people have not experienced any problems. A handful of people have. And again, that points to environment, okay? Because if 98 people don't have fading within a reasonable number of months, they don't see anything happening to their prints, and 2 or 3 show fading within 2 weeks, it's the environment. It is. Okay. We can argue all day about that, but That's the reason. All right. Chip problems with the Pro 10, and this could be the Pro 10, the Pro 1, the Pro 100, Pro 9500, Pro 9000, whatever. As you know, we can reset the chips on our Canon OEM cards for those printers, except for the Pro 1. If when you're resetting, and if you go back, there's a video that I created about how to properly reset your Canon OEM card with the chip, the original chip. If you attach it to the resetter, you make contact with the resetter, and you get a flash and then a solid light, you're good to go. But if you have to play around and you get multiple short flashes, you might end up ruining your chip, and that will render it useless. You'll have to get a new card. No other option for that. And so be careful when you are resetting your Canon cards. And as convenient, as perfect a system as that is, and for us to be able to not only save a ton of money, but end up with the most reliable ink feeding situation. The only way you get that is with OEM cards. Do not even come close to considering any kind of like compatible cards. They just don't have the same sponge, and it just doesn't provide the correct flow. But when you reset the chip, make sure that you are aligning that card correctly onto the resetter. I don't have one near me. I should have been better prepared. But and if you get a single flash and nothing happens, remove the card. Don't play around too much. Position it again and try to get that card perfectly aligned. Unfortunately, the resetters don't provide a perfect guide for the cartridge. You still have to sort of position it in place because you have to depress a little button, a little lever, and that causes the power to then be connected to the resetter, a little board, internal board. And so get it in there, get that first flash, and then you will get your second solid flash of red. In other words, your LED on the chip will light up. Once it lights up red, you're good to go. Now, on some of the resetters for the Pro 10, for instance, the light will go on and it will then go off. At that point, you remove the card from the resetter and you will be fine. Somebody wanted to know how to print 11 by 14 on the Pro 100, Pro 10, Pro whatever from Canon. Well, unfortunately, unlike Epson, for example, Epson P800 has several categories of paper sizes, and I know that the rest of the world utilizes the A system. Well, unfortunately, in the United States, we have photo paper sizes. Those are your 4 by 5, your 5 by 7, 8 by 10, 11 by 14, 16 by 20, and so on. Whereas the paper that you buy comes in odd sizes that have nothing to do with the original photo sizes. Like, for example, although we have 5 by 7, we have 4 by 6, we have 8.5 by 11, we have 17 by 11 or 11 by 17, we have 13 by 19, 17 by 22. So yeah, Canon printer driver, you have to create a custom paper size for it. There is no built-in 11 by 14 on your Canon drivers. So you'll have to create your custom size. I just recently made a video on how to do that on the Epson and also on the Canon driver. So it takes you to the steps. Unfortunately, on the Canon, I couldn't figure out a way to save that custom size so then I could access it in the future. You have to create the same custom size every time you're going to print to, for instance, in this case, 11 by 14. You have to do that every single time. On the Epson, you can actually save that and it will be accessible in the future. So yes, it's not going to be found. You're not going to see 11 by 14. All right, so you have to make your own by following the steps that I show you in that video. And just go ahead and look for it. It's only about a couple of weeks ago. All right. Somebody wanted to know, how do I access my ICC profiles in Lightroom? Do I have to drag them into Lightroom? No. Like I said in my first section, profiles are installed in a specific folder in Windows. On Mac, OS, they're stored in a specific folder as well. I just don't know what that is. And from what I understand, you have to physically copy them onto that folder. In Windows, you just basically double click the ICC profile you download, or right click on the profile file and choose install, and it automatically goes in the correct folder. So then once it is residing there, then you can access it in Lightroom. But how? You have to first tell Lightroom printer module that you want to let Lightroom control color. And when you do so, then you have to go to the page setup, lower left portion of the printer module, and then inside that driver, open up your printer driver, basically the preferences, and then tell it to not control color. So now Lightroom is controlling color, the driver is not controlling color. And then once you tell Lightroom that you want it to control color, now you're going to access a whole myriad of, in my case, I have hundreds of profiles that I can access. In your case, you might only have one printer, so you'll have a group of profiles for all of the papers that you use for that brand printer. And so then you would choose the correct paper profile there, and you would be good to go. All right, now, someone has followed my footsteps and bought some of this Cone Ultra HD Matte Black, and they have an older Epson R2400, which basically is I think it's like an 8-color printer, meaning that it has 7 channels, 7 slots on the printer carriage, the head carriage, and it shares one black with matte black or photo black, just like the 2880, except the 2880 has 2 shades of light black and light black. The 2400 only has one light version of black. And so you have to then share that black channel. Makes no difference. So he wanted to know whether he has to do some extensive purging once he changes, for instance, from photo black to matte black. Mentioned something about the ink lines. Well, first of all, there are no ink lines on any printer that houses the cartridges on top of the printhead carriage. No such animal. Canon Pro 100, the cartridges right on top of the head carriage. Pro 10, the cartridges right on top of the head carriage. Epson 3800, oh no, those are stationary carts. They're basically situated away from the head, and those do have ink lines. Anytime you have a printer with carriages that ride along with the head, there's no ink lines. Anytime you have a printer with cartridges that are stationary, then you have ink lines. Some of the artisan all-in-one small little Epson printers with the built-in scanners and such, yes, stationary carts. And they have a set of ink lines that attaches to the printhead carriage. So on the question was about the 2400. So basically all you have to do is when you switch over from photo black, now you're going to print on some matte material, remove the cart, pop the matte black ink there, and then it's going to run an ink purge anyway because you replaced a cart, and it does that anytime you replace a single cart. That little short ink purge is more than enough to clear the photo black out of the print head, not the ink lines, because there are no ink lines. So keep that in mind. You don't have to waste ink running a cleaning cycle, for instance, after you switch your black. And it's inconvenient, but it's also quite economical because it really doesn't use up any more ink than a regular cartridge change would. All right, that is it. I hope these little subjects hit home and we're able to clear some things up. If you had any questions about these topics that I chose, and just keep in mind that there's always a reason for something in the printer world. And so sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't make too much sense. But it's just a matter of getting used to a particular model and that model's idiosyncrasies. All right, so thanks once again. We are doing really well on subscribership again, and hopefully we'll continue to grow and grow and grow. So please, if you have any questions, just ask below, any topics you would like me to discuss, I'll be more than glad to create videos on those topics. I'm going to make a video on how to create templates in the Lightroom print module so that you can then access these custom made templates for you to be able to drop photos onto. All right, I hope that is a interesting subject for you guys that use Lightroom. I know I do, and I would love to have the convenience of something like that to be able to just drop images onto them. There's a lot of built-in ones, but often none of those really fit our needs. So I'll show you how to create custom templates for Lightroom. I did that for Photoshop. Now we're going to jump over to Lightroom and show you how to do that there. Okay, thank you once again. Please subscribe, share, and like. And until the next time, everybody, bye-bye.